Hi, Will Gethin here. Welcome to the 6th and final episode of Series 2 of the Follow Your Blissters podcast. This episode explores the astonishing tale of redemption of Liam Meredith, a former convict and drug addict who, having radically transformed his own life, now supports other ex-offenders to move away from crime. In this conversation, Liam candidly shares his journey from broken home beginnings to addiction and drug dealing, through imprisonment and healing with horses, and onwards to his emergence as the inspired entrepreneur, rap artist and mentor to other ex-offenders he is today. For the first time on Follow Your Blissters, this special episode is available to watch in full on video on Spotify and YouTube, as well as via audio on all the other usual podcasting channels. I hope you'll be touched and uplifted by Liam's extraordinary story. Hey Liam.
Hi Will.
Good to see you.
And you, mate.
Thanks for coming all the way down from Burrington Combe, just outside Bristol, right?
Yep, that's it, yeah.
To come and join us here in the studio. We're at Strode College here, so big thanks to Strode for lending us their studio, and the very able Isaac Nichols, who's our editor and filmer today. So yeah, Liam, it's a real honour to have you on this podcast. Maybe of all the guests so far, I have a feeling that your story is arguably the most fascinating and interesting.
Wow.
It's a remarkable tale of redemption.
Wow.
We've worked together, obviously, with the crime prevention charity Key for Life, who you obviously work for today. And we've worked together with the charity. I've also been doing publicity and booked you on many interviews, and you've been on Radio 2, you've been on Radio 4, you've been on various BBC and ITV TVs and all sorts of things. And there's always amazing, I say always, people at the BBC have come back to me and said, wow, Liam completely wowed our audiences across the country. We have so much feedback. And so yeah, it's an honour to have you on the show today. So how are you feeling today, Liam?
So to be totally honest, Will, I'm feeling really humble just by what you just said. Really grateful for the opportunities that I've been given. Really grateful to you for the opportunities that you've given me in my life, and not only me, people that's heard what we've had to say and found the light themselves now. So yeah, it's just a pleasure to finally be here with you now in this time when it's meant to have happened. So yeah, just feeling grateful, Will.
Yeah, so we talked about doing this interview for a long time now, haven't we?
But the universe has been doing its bits and bobs to make sure it happened at the right time, which has. I definitely feel is now.
Yeah. So before we just dive in and hear all about your story, maybe just give us a sense of what your life, what you do today, what your work is today, and what you're up to.
So right now, I find myself just in the midst of the storm, really, of just giving it back. I'm working for the charity Key for Life, which helped me find my path of redemption, giving back to the communities and far beyond my own community. So I'm like a caseworker. So I'm taking young men that's in a similar position to what I was, taking them into getting careers, not only jobs, but careers in industries they want to be in. I'm banging on the doors of the people that's able to offer these opportunities now. So yeah, I'm just trying to remain that catalyst for change, the middleman promoting change on top of running my own business. So I've got my own catering firm, Execo Flavors Fine Catering, which was inspired by Key for Life's burger van, which is a renovated sweat box, but I'm sure we'll touch later on in the interview from that. So yeah, at the moment, I'm just living my best life, Will, clean of addiction, giving back to the community, and just trying to pay forward for all the good that I've had put into me.
Fantastic, mate. And also, Liam, of course, you do rapping as well, don't you?
Yeah.
So we're going to hear more about that, and you're even going to do a little rap for us a bit later on.
Yeah, I might give you a 16 or a 24. We'll have to see what the royalties are saying.
Oh. Fantastic. So yeah, let's dive into to your journey. It starts with a call to adventure. What was the call to adventure, Liam, that led you, in a sense, to where you are with your life today? Now, obviously, there have been various sort of darker twists and turns, maybe moments of grace that you weren't expecting, but we are where we are today. And what was the call to adventure that set you off on the journey?
Well, it's a funny question, really, Will, because I've always felt calls for adventure. I feel like they come a lot of times over my life and throughout my childhood, really. But when I turned 17, I was heavily addicted to drugs, and I was completely lost in the lifestyle I was living. And on this particular occasion, I remembered I was awake. I'd been awake for 11 days, and I hadn't slept a wink for 11 days solid. And it climatized when I was living in a homeless hostel, and I was letting my friend live with me because he was homeless as well. And he had a big pile of drugs on the mirror. I hope I'm allowed to say drugs, but he did. He had a big pile, and he was trying to force it into me, and I just didn't want to do it. I felt like my life was about to end if I did. And I kicked the drugs out of his hand, and I left my property, and I walked to the park, and I sat on a bench in the park, and it was like I was taking my last breaths. I could feel it, and the sun was just rising, and I just looked up to the sky, and I just started praying to God to spare me and to let me see my mum again, let me see my nan again, and to help me. And I wanted more for my life, but I was convinced that was it, that this was the pinnacle, this was the end now. My mum was gonna hear that I'd been found on a park bench, and this old lady come walking past, walking her dog, and she asked me, am I okay? And I couldn't really talk to give her an answer. I definitely wasn't okay, and with that she called me an ambulance, and I was checked into hospital in Bridgewater, and I was coming round with all these tubes and pipes and checks going on me, and I just realised that I was okay, that I could actually function again. I was okay, I was going to survive. And with that, I took all the tubes out of me, and I marched home to my mum's house. And yeah, I went and seen my mum, and my mum just broke down into tears, and she was just saying, please Liam, I don't want to bury you like she buried Ashley, who was one of our very close people a couple months before due to a drug overdose. And I swore with God that day that I'd change, and I won't take drugs again, and I'm going to serve a good life. I'm going to be a good son. I'm going to be a good brother, and I'm going to make the most of it now. But it was short-lived. Do you know what I mean? I instantly started drinking alcohol, and 5 days into my journey, I committed an offence then on Friday the 13th of April 2012. And I what actually happened was, it was a revenge attack for me being robbed while I was out on the roads living in the homeless hostel. I got robbed at knife point for a large amount of drugs, and it was like God's test, really. Do you know what I mean? It was like, well, there you go. If you're serious, he's right there in that window. And I crippled, I failed, and I picked up a weapon, and I ran into the house, and I took my revenge. And I was then given a 6-year prison sentence for that moment of madness. But that was my chance. That was the help that I needed actually at the time to break free of all the demons. And yeah, God knew that I wasn't going to uphold my end of the bargain if he had left me out here. So he gave me a chance.
Yeah.
And the chance came in the form of a prison, which is rather ironic.
Well, as it's turned out, if you hadn't gone to prison once, even twice, you wouldn't have had all the opportunities you've had, actually, weirdly enough, from it to not only turn your life around, but to really help turn around the lives of a lot of others. And I think, am I right in thinking that call that you felt in that moment of despair was to create some good in your life and to have
to make it bigger than me? It was like, it felt like my everything was inverted towards myself. I hated myself, and the people that I loved, I removed to protect them. Do you know what I mean? And it was like, I totally isolated myself, and it was all for selfish reasons, because I wanted to do this, because I wanted to do that. And I always thought there was something bigger than myself. And it was like, I was so off course, I was so off purpose, that the calling come, and it was like, if you're not going to take it serious, then there's other ways we can go around this, Liam. Yeah. And I did. Then I got to prison, and I realised that actually, everything I've experienced in my life, from watching my mum getting beaten, from the drugs and X, Y, and Z, this was the end of it. then there was a lot of people in this environment that needed my help. And had I never actually got to see that side of it, it would have always been blindsided to have seen the aftermath of what happens when the lads are released from prison if they haven't got the help. Yeah. And there's victims. Yeah. There's a lot more victims, and I was a victim until that chance came.
Okay. So you went to prison at that point, but let's just rewind the clock, jump back in time, and just get a sense of your childhood, your upbringing, and how explore like how your journey, if you like, towards falling into crime came about. So yeah, how did it? Well, just tell me, what was childhood like? What was it like growing up?
As far as I know, it was beautiful. The start of my life was picture perfect. I was born in Cwm, which is a little valley in South Wales, a mining village, and my granddad was a coal miner. My great-granddad was a coal miner. My great-great-granddad was a coal miner. And I was with my mum and dad and the whole family in the valley, but I believe my father made the mistake of seeing another woman or something along them lines, and my mum had to leave him, and that looked like us moving to Birmingham. Then they was both always recreational drug users. So my father was a drinker, more borderline alcoholic, and my mother was just a recreational. She'd take pills, she'd take pot, and she'd take all them, do you know what I mean, recreationally. So she weren't a heavy addict. But then when we moved to Birmingham, she met...
Did Dad stay in Wales?
Dad stayed in Wales, yeah. So she split up with Dad, and that's why she moved us to Birmingham, to be closer to her mum and her side of the family.
Did you see much of Dad after that?
Yes, I would see Dad in my school holidays. So like me and my dad, I idolise my dad, do you know what I mean? I love him with all my heart. He hasn't fulfilled everything that he could have done with his life, but I've learned a lot from my dad, and he's happy, and you're still in touch. We're still in touch all the time, do you know what I mean? And he's a good dad. He's a good dad. I believe a good dad ain't someone that buys you this and buys you that, and a good dad's just someone that's there to give you lessons when you need them. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Just that solid figure, and Dad always was that. Do you know what I mean? People were quick enough to slander their dads, and I get a lot of people ain't got a dad, but I do. I'm grateful to have my father still, to be able to appreciate. We all make mistakes. I know that better than anyone now. I'm older, and I've made probably more mistakes than my father made. Yeah. So if I can't forgive him, how could I ever expect anyone to forgive myself? Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, back to Mum and Birmingham.
So Mum moved us to Birmingham to get away from Dad and all my Welsh side of my family, and she met a bloke in Birmingham who was very violent, and he was much deeper into his drug addiction. I won't share his name, but he was a heroin addict, do you know what I mean, crack cocaine addict, and it wasn't long before my mum started taking the drugs herself, and me and my little brother Jake were collateral damage then to everything what happened around your parents using. So like Mum would always be absent. They'd always be trying to wake her up. Mum would have an overdose, call an ambulance, go out shoplifting as Mum's cover. Mum would get caught shoplifting. Me and Jake would be running round town getting chased by security as toddlers, do you know what I mean? Dodging drug paraphernalia, stepping over addicts that are asleep in the hallway. But my mum loved us. I can't take anything away from that. Mum adored us. She always done her absolute best. But unfortunately, the demons, they had a grip on her, and it was questionable whether we was ever going to make it out, to be totally honest.
Yeah, I've heard you say that you didn't realise your life wasn't normal until later. But I mean, it's hard to imagine, really. It's such an unusual childhood, isn't it? Well, maybe not that unusual, but to me it's unusual.
Well, you do. You go around, we used to go to people's houses, but they would be my mum's friends' houses that were also addicts. And I remember we had two other lads that we'd always go, and their life was the same as ours. So anywhere that we got to see or witness seemed similar.
Was there a sense within that environment that you grew up in that drugs were a positive thing that you should be doing?
100%. Violence particularly. Violence was a positive thing, as were drugs.
Really?
Yeah. Violence was the best tool for communication growing up. People didn't listen a lot, but then violence would be brought into it, and people would listen a lot, and people often wouldn't, like my mum's partners a lot of the time wouldn't even talk. It would just be savage assaults, brutal assaults. My mum would always throw herself on top
of you.
Wow. Always throw herself in the way.
How
assaults.
Bad do those assaults get? Like, how bad was the beatings?
Life-threatening.
Literally?
100%.
From when you were a kid?
My mum's been on ICU, intensive care units. Life-threatening. I remember once we come home and there was a wheelie bin through our back window, and I was about 6, 7. I thought, God, that's strange, innit? I'd never seen that before. I've been through our window. And Mum said, right, you boys, you can't stay home tonight. You've got to stay at your aunties who live around the corner. So we stayed at Auntie's, Auntie Lou's, and I come home the next morning, and I didn't recognise my mum. I didn't recognise her. She was battered.
God.
Battered black and blue, and she was in intensive care that night, and had to get out so she could smoke gear. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was dark.
And this was just normal to you?
Literally, I didn't recognise her. The only thing that clocked it was there was a blanket over her that had hospital written all over it. And I was at hospital. And then I looked and I realised it was my mum, and she had to go to hospital because she had been beaten so badly. And I know it was. Mum knew it was. But it didn't end there. It was like then the next day, within a few days, they had gone out shoplifting, and this bloke was looking after me and my brother, and people broke into the house, all in balaclavas, and we were young kids. And they were saying to Jerry, like, Jerry, we're going to get him. He's got to get it. Which was obviously referring to my mum's partner that they didn't get that night. And then I was sat stood in the spare room looking out the window, and I could see my mum and her partner coming down the driveway. And I was banging the window because I knew they was waiting in the hallway with knives. I was banging, screaming, please, Mum, don't come in. And she come running down the drive. Obviously, her motherly instinct kicked in like it always did. She's seen me up there screaming. She's come running in the house, and that was it. Just hear it all kicking off downstairs. I went downstairs, and then, thank heavens, it wasn't my mum. But her partner was just lying on the floor, bleeding out, holes all in him.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? And my mum saved his life. My mum threw a mattress on top of him. There's a mattress in the hallway, and she rolled that. Otherwise they would have kept going. And that was just the day in the life. Do you know what I mean? And then growing up,
do you ever feel like slightly haunted by those memories now?
I just feel it's not haunted, because I just feel like I've got to make the most of this time now. Do you know what I mean? Like people still experiencing that. Yeah. I did experience, people still going through that. A lot closer to home than anyone actually realises. Yeah, right. So I feel like I just got to make this time count now to just make my family proud, yeah, but at the same time help the younger version of me, help my mum when my mum needed that help. Help the people that were beating her up. They're the ones that really need the help. People forget that.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? They worry about the victim, but if we don't actually fix the perpetrators, they're going to keep perpetrating, and the victim list is going to unfortunately keep growing. Yeah. So.
And your mum went inside herself, didn't she? Intermittently, and there's one sentence I think was about 30 months. Yeah. And she, of course, we did an article through Key for Life that ended up in the Daily Mail about sort of the mothers of ex-offenders and how their stories, about their own stories and what they've been through. And your mum shared hers very bravely and amazingly. And she shared in that how when she went to prison, you were 5 years old and you got strip searched yourself to go and visit her in the prison, which I don't think you can remember that, can you?
I've got vague memories of it all. Well, do you know what I mean? Strip searches. The one that stands out the most to me is Mum smuggling drugs into the prison herself, and she got caught. And that was the one time what stood out for me, because they were all restraining my mum on the floor and they were restraining her partner, and I was like, what's going on here? And I didn't see Mum again for a long time. They sent her to prison, and it was like she was just ripped away from me there in that jail. And then I would go and visit my mum in prisons, and I think because of her offence of supplying HMP with a Class A substance, obviously then her risk was higher, so therefore it's appropriate to strip search 5-year-olds.
Yeah. Well, after the live switch we're getting a sort of window on, it's hardly surprising that you didn't, turn out as a model citizen, kind of doing things all in the conventional sort of perceived way of a successful, normal, healthy way of living. But nonetheless, you grew up and you went to school, and when did things start to go wrong in terms of actually you getting into trouble yourself?
So I was always naughty. Do you know what I mean? I was never a little angel.
Yeah.
My nan always said everybody's gonna love the little boy, because my nan's so spiritual, and she took my mum to have her palms read when she was pregnant with me, and the lady said everybody's gonna love the little boy, but the little boy might be a little bit naughty. So I was always mischievous. I was always up to no good, and I was always pushing boundaries. You know what I mean? Break my heart for my nan. My nan's in heaven now, but my nan was our rock while my mum was in rehab or in prison. We would always go and be with nan. And nan,
what was Nan like? Did she have a sort of
she was a
vaguely normal life? Or
Nan was married to the forces, I believe, for most of our life, and Nan was in the forces herself.
So she kept us sort of rocked together.
Yeah, literally. She was a tough cookie, my Nan. Do you know what I mean? She had to be a tough cookie, and then she ended up working in the care system, so looking after vulnerable people. And she was doing that while also looking after me and my little brother. And like I used to be really naughty, and I regret it so much. I used to play my nan up so much, but Nan always, she always stuck by us. Do you know what I mean? And it was the point then when I'm living with Nan, my mum's in rehab, that I've then started to wonder. All right, then, I always hated drugs, but what actually is drugs? And I started to test the boundaries a little bit, and I only started smoking.
How old were you then?
14 maybe, turning 15.
So you started smoking weed?
There's cigarettes.
The cigarettes were
so I went from cigarettes to weed in the space of 5 days, I guess, because to me drugs were drugs.
Quick upgrade,
A cigarette was a drug. I used to snap up Nan's fags, and rightly so, because lung cancer got her in the end, bless her. But I used to snap up Nan's fags. I hated smoking, and it was all drugs to me. But then I started smoking, and I seen myself as a druggie. I know it sounds crazy, but I was so young-minded. I'm doing drugs now, and then from that, then I'm in a park with my friends, and they're smoking bongs, and they were trying to get me to do a bong, and I was contemplating. I was like, I don't really want to.
These were friends at school, or
friends from school? My schoolmates. And it ended up, cut a long story short, we ended up having a fight because I didn't want to do this bong, and they threw me in a bunch of stinging nettles, and I got out the stinging nettles covered in bumps and bruises, and I was like, come on then, I said, let's have it again, you won't get me in the stinging nettles again. And they was like, Liam, just smoke a bong and chill out.
God, so peer pressure was alive and well in your school.
They said literally, Will, they said, just smoke it, it'll chill you out. I said, what, will it chill me out, will it? And they said, yeah, it will chill you out, you won't feel like this anymore. I did. I smoked that bong, and a week later then I was sniffing a drug called Meow Meow. So I went from smoking a cigarette to sniffing Class A's in 2 weeks while I was in school.
Right.
And then there was no turning back, or it felt like there wasn't no turning back.
Yeah.
And because of my mum's history, I just didn't want anyone to know.
So you were selling drugs by the age of what, sort of
15?
15, right. And did you produce them? Did you actually make some of them all?
I was growing weed by 15 and selling it.
Right.
But couldn't grow enough to sell all the time, Will. So I'd grow to sell, pure profit, and then I'd buy to do flips on.
Right.
But back then it was takeaway money, man. Do you know what I mean? I used to do it. It was just to survive. It was literally just to have things, just to get food. I didn't want to be a big drug dealer. It was literally just getting me things that I couldn't have before. Yeah. And that's all it was. Yeah. And then 15 turned to 16, and £100 weren't a lot of money then. Do you know what I mean? £1,000 weren't a lot of money then. Come 17, £10,000 weren't a lot of money. So you found yourself doing worse and worse things to get the money.
Now, meanwhile, I think you developed a sort of great capacity for running, didn't you? Running away from various cops.
Running away from the police.
And didn't you become one of the fastest runners in the southwest of England or something?
I believe I was one of the fastest runners in the whole of England. Will.
Really?
My timings.
Did you win the official
I was unbeaten.
cup to that way.
Well, I was unbeaten in the southwest of England.
Yeah.
They ran me in the southwest against the Millfield runners 2 years in a row, and I left them both in the dust. So I'd arguably say I was a lot faster than anyone in the southwest.
Right, and not unnoticed, Millfield.
Not unnoticed, yeah. Millfield.
I believe actually gave you a scholarship to the school, right?
Yeah, they wanted to give me a scholarship to the school. Brought me in on a trial and a taster under one of the best scholarships they'd given anyone, because of the basis that I come from poverty. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we couldn't afford a 50% scholarship. We couldn't afford a 10% scholarship.
No, of course.
If they thought I had a talent, which they did, they backed their talk, and unfortunately I didn't back mine. And yeah, within 2 days of being at that school, I was smoking dope out the back of the bike sheds and got removed from their school, rightly so as well. But I don't regret it. I feel like I was meant to be where I was meant to be.
You're probably never going to fit in that school.
That's how it was. My PE teacher disagreed. He said to me, "You were such a fool." I said, "Why?" He said, "You were set for life there, Liam." And I was like, "How?" And he was like, "All them kids, they're all flying into school in helicopters." He was like, "Look out there. Look, do you see any helicopters?" He's like, "Can you see any nice cars?" And I was like, No. And he was like, "Exactly." He said, "All you mates would have had you set for life." But I don't believe in that. There's no better way of learning than the hard way. You learn more in failure than you ever do in success, Will. So it was meant to be. 100%. But thank you, Millfield. Big up, Millfield.
So then at some point soon you then got that arrest for the assault, and you found yourself in prison.
Portland Young Offenders.
So yeah, in the hero's journey, classically at this stage of the journey, the on the road stage, or the road of trials as Joseph Campbell called it, the journey kind of starts with crossing a threshold. And for you, that threshold, it was, I'm seeing a sort of like crossing that threshold into prison itself. And Joseph Campbell also referred to kind of crossing the threshold into a special world within the hero's journey, sort of a world that was different to the world back home. And so in this case, ironically, prison is the special world which you entered.
And it was quite a special world, I must admit.
So how did it feel? How did it feel that sort of first day? Do you remember how the feelings you had going into prison? What was it like?
Well, the first day going in, it's a mixed bag, really. Total mixed bag of emotion. I remember my overwhelming thought just being like, they was right. They was all right. Everyone that told me I was going to end up in prison, they were right. I remember being scared. I was quite lucky, really, because my co-defendant, even though he was innocent, I dragged him into it. My mum's new husband, which is my brothers and sisters' dad, he was on the bus ride with me. So I kind of had that comfort of knowing that I knew someone. But I watched all the films like 8 Mile and, sorry, not 8 Mile, Green Mile, and so on. And I won't lie, I thought I was going to be sexually assaulted. I thought I was going to be stabbed. I thought I was going to get my face cut up. I thought I can't drop the soap, as ironic and silly as it sounds. I had all these thoughts.
No, I'm sure, but did you need to worry? Was it not like that at all?
Nah, I mean, it was. You had to have your senses about you. You weren't in Disneyland, but it weren't like how the movies portrayed. At least not where I went, anyway. I just found so much relativity. It was scary. I felt a sense of belonging.
You did. So other people who come from similar backgrounds to you.
Literally, it breaks my heart even thinking it now. I think about it quite a lot. Sometimes I'll just lie in bed and shed a tear, and my missus would be like, what's wrong with you, you weirdo? And I'm just thinking about my friends that still ain't out, and it's questionable to if they're ever going to get out. And they're just like me. Do you know what I mean? They're such good boys. Their parents adore them. They're valued. They could achieve so much, but they never got the opportunity. And I'm under no disillusion. Had I not met Keith alive, then I wouldn't have been given mine, and I'd still be one of the statistics that's failed, and not one of the lucky ones that escaped.
What working with Keith alive has really shown me, because there's many men like yourself going through these programs who come from an offending background, and it's easy as from an outsider, from someone of a relatively normal life, to look at people who've been involved in crime and think, oh gosh, they're probably like bad people. And you really learn, really see so clearly when you work with Key for Life and meet some of these people that it's not about whether they're a good person or a bad person. Everyone has the opportunity, or within them, the goodness to live a good and useful life. But it's what you get brought up with, what you're surrounded by, what you're shown as normal. If you're shown, beating people up, taking loads of drugs, doing crime is normal. That's what you're going to grow up doing. And yet you see these people given the chance to turn around and given them the tools and the ability to do that, and they emerge out of that just really wonderful, open-hearted people who've gone through deep journeys. They've transformed. They've got real soul, and they really want to do good in the world. And it's really powerful to see that just in reality. And you're particularly a really shining example of that, Liam.
No, thank you. It is. It's strange, because you said people that it's always been normalised violence, the drug culture, gang culture, and everything what goes along with it. But when you take someone out of that environment and put them into a corporate world or somewhere that they're not particularly used to, the initial part of it is harrowing, because they're not used to this. It's changed. It isn't familiar. So it's like our brains have to rewire and adapt to this new situation. But should we give ourselves long enough in that environment, it's not long till that becomes the normal. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And now I return to my old environments as a visitor to try and help people, and I'm so uncomfortable there. Do you know what I mean? With the drug culture and the violence and the this and the that and the thefts and the robberies and I'm like, it's totally changed. People can actually change their physiology. Do you know what I mean? We can actually physically change who we are in our body, in our mind, and to everybody, how everybody else sees us in the world. It's just about getting that opportunity to do it, and then getting the resilience, the determination to actually commit to that change. Because I find working with a lot of the young men on the roads at the minute, I'm getting lads off the roads that have been on the road for, do you know what I mean, a couple of days in retrospect, but they've not seen what that road's got on for them. I can sit there and tell them, you're putting your family at risk. The chances are you're going to get stabbed. Chances are you're going to go to jail. Chances are you're never going to make it. Do you know what I mean? And give them all about, but they don't want to hear that. No. They will do it. And it's only then when they've been to the road, they've been to jail, and they've had to bury their loved ones, then they're ready for the help. So I'm finding where I'm to now, I'm getting these men off the road that have been on the roads, and then I'm putting them into corporate positions, and they're flying, Will. They're flying. One guy was in jail. They were saying, oh, you can't work with him. He's too much of a problem to society. Right, why is he such a problem? Oh, he made 6 figures last year on his drug line. What? Yeah, 6 figures on drugs last year. That's why he's in there now. I went, so he's an entrepreneur then, do you know what I mean? He's a businessman. Because that ain't easy. It ain't easy to make 6 figures on the roads. And then, got him into he works as an insurance broker now. He's in insurance in the city in London, earning more than 6 figures legally. We just had to change the product.
Exactly,
They're all transferable skills. But had we had got him before he had done all that, would he have been really ready to go and work in insurance? Who knows?
Hi, this is Will here again. That bell was just to alert you that we're going to take a quick break so I can tell you about the different ways to listen to and engage with this podcast. I really hope you're enjoying this final episode of Series 2. For this series, I've been releasing monthly episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and all major podcast channels where you can also subscribe. Any ratings and reviews would be really greatly appreciated, as they really help to let others know about Follow Your Blisters. And don't forget, we're spelling blisters with a double S on the bliss. To find out more about the podcast and the hero's journey, please head to my website, consciousfrontiers.com, where you can sign up to the newsletter for news and updates about future podcasts and events, and follow our social channels. Thanks for listening, and now let's get back to the journey. So we're sort of leaping ahead to
Sorry, Will.
No, it's fine. But let's go back to prison a moment. So yeah, what was it actually like? The reality of being in prison. What was it like? You were in a 6x4 cell. Was that?
It was 12 foot by 8 foot. 12 foot by 8 foot. Mostly double cells, mostly with pad mates. You got you got a bunk bed in there, a couple of cupboards, a sink, and a toilet. In Portland jail, the toilet was literally allocated right next to your bed. It was disgusting. I don't know how you could humanely get away with it, but yeah, you'd go sleep and you'd wake up and there'd be a man taking a toilet literally centimeters from your head.
Wow.
It's like, but it become normal.
Yeah.
It was more strange then when I got out to have a toilet on my own. I was like asking my brother Jake if he can come stand in the bath like.
So what would you do? What would you be up to every day? Were you allowed to go out your cell
to be honest,
hours a day, or?
It was like in Portland was quite rough banger. A lot of the time I was doing 23, 22 and a half, 23 hours banged up behind my door every day.
Wow.
And that was my own choice because I didn't do education. So if you went to education or to a workshop, you'd get an extra 5-6 hours out your cell a day. So
you didn't want that at the time?
Didn't want it. Well, on my first 3 years, I was just depressed, mate. Do you know what I mean? I weren't preparing for my release. I was waiting for the gate to open. So it weren't a case of investing in myself, rehabilitating myself. So all I was interested was getting back out there now and just getting back to it, not coming back jail, but not changing a thing.
Oh, so you would have gone straight back out and gone back to the old life?
Yeah.
That was the intention at the time?
My intention was not to come back to jail,
yeah,
but to not do anything differently.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it was insanity almost.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think I needed to change. I thought it was like just a case of my addiction and everything always happened to me.
What about the part of Liam that had that call to want to do something bigger than himself?
That was it, Will. When I was back in the prison again, I was on spice. I was taking a drug called spice.
So that was all sort of forgotten, lost in a haze of doldrums.
I had 3 years behind the door to forget about.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I had the calling on the bench. When I got sent to prison, I weren't even aware that was part of the calling. Yeah. I thought I was just shit out of luck. Yeah. And this was it now. Yeah. This was it. I was convinced I'd never ever go back to jail, but I was naive. I was really naive because I didn't invest in myself. Yeah. There was no real opportunities available for when I was getting out of jail. I was going back to the same environment with the same people and doing the same things and hopefully getting a different outcome, which was never going to happen.
Did you have any important allies in jail at that time?
So
people who supported you?
It all depends on what part of my journey I was on in jail. So I would go up and down in prison. I'd fluctuate. I'd get clean and healthy, and I'd be focusing on going to the gym as much as I could, training, eating, weighing 15 stone, pure mind and body and that sort of side of it. And then I'd feel like I got to the peak of that and I got bored of it. So I'd relapse and I'd start taking spice again, and I'd lose all the weight and I'd go in self-destruct mode. And when I felt like I was on death's door again, then I'd build myself back up again. And that broke down my sentence. I would read and stuff, but not under the intention of this is going to help me. It was for my own selfish reasons to cure boredom. I'd spend a lot of my time on basic, so it means I'd have no television, no privileges of social, so I'd be completely isolated on my own as a prisoner with no involvement with other prisoners. They kind of really isolate you, do you know what I mean, when you're on basic, and that would be for 2 weeks. But if you didn't keep your head down for them 2 weeks, it would be reinstated for another 2 weeks. And before you knew it, well, I'd been on basic for 9 months, living off £2 a week, with no telly, listening to a radio. And it was all grateful because I reframed it in my mind. Like, come the end of it, they tried giving me my television back, and I told them I don't want it. So I don't want it. Why not, Liam? Because it's just more stuff that you can take away from me. And I didn't want it back. Do you know what I mean? Come time, I think there was a big Christmas EastEnders episode on, so I had to watch it. But that was it. And
right, so you were basically really depressed and just lying there, just
waiting for my day
wallowing
to come.
away these dreary, awful days.
Yeah, just hoping that, you know what, I could make something of my life, but no real belief in them words. Like, I was just submissive to, I thought everything was just happening to me. It all just happens to me. I didn't think that I was actually making it all happen. But that, I only realised that then during my second sentence.
Right. So the first sentence, you weren't
was a
really
complete waste of life.
learning a lot. You were just in this dark place. But you did manage to get out. Is it 3 years early?
Yeah, so I got 6 years for my revenge attack, and then I served 3 years out my 6 years, and I got released then at 21. Yeah, locked up just as I turned 18 and released just as I turned 21.
And so how did it feel to be out?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Felt on top of the world.
And what did you do your first day?
Cried for a lot of everything. Cried for the first part, but then I just let myself down. I let everyone down. It was all in vain. The last 3 years of my life just was all in vain. And I realised it when I woke up the next day. I got out from prison that day with a lad called CJ. God bless him. He's still, CJ, bless him. And yeah, me and CJ done a long time behind the door as well. So we got out and there was no one there at the gate. And what should we do then? We were waiting for our people, and he went, "Oh, let's cross the road." And it was such a strange experience, Will, just to cross a road. Just to cross that road was like overwhelming. And I was like, wow.
Which people were you waiting for?
My mum, my stepdad, and my brothers and sisters. And they arrived. There was only a couple minutes late, first thing in the morning, so I can let them off. It weren't like they weren't waiting for 3 years for that day to come, was it? But yeah, they picked me up. We went for breakfast. It was magical. We had pictures, and I was convinced that I was going to go home that evening and watch Netflix with Amber, my mum, brothers and sisters.
Amber, your girlfriend, yeah.
But it wasn't like that. I got home. All my friends was at the house. All my friends from before. The alcohol was waiting. The drugs was hiding in their pockets. And it just went up in the air, and I started drinking, and then we went to town. I didn't even get all the way to town. I got to the third pub from my estate, and I was fighting in the pub. I was having a fight in the pub the day I got out of jail. And I went out with this boy in the street, rolling around and that. Someone got glassed, and it was crazy. And then we carried on, and I carried on into town. Got absolutely steaming. I woke up the next morning with a black eye. My hands was all sore. My nose was blocked from how much cocaine I'd taken. My throat was sore. And I just grabbed the quilt covers and wrapped myself in them as hard as I could. And I was just squeezing and screaming into the quilt. I was so angry with myself. And yeah, I just realised that I'd wasted all that time. And am I going to change? I don't think that I've changed. So I went straight back out there, and I was doing robberies, and I was selling drugs, and I was being as worse as I could be. I hated myself. I hated myself, and that's when it all happened again.
So what happened again?
I went to prison
for
another violent offence in town. I had a fight with a security guard, and yeah, I apologised to him the next morning. I said, "I'm so sorry. Thank you for not calling the police." And then I got arrested, and I was in the interview, and they said, "Can you explain what this message is about then?" And yeah, I was admitting to an offence what I had done when I had said sorry. I was admitting guilt for something, and it was a strange experience, man.
So how long was that you managed out of trouble before that? Well, not out of trouble, but till you got caught, or till you had that fight?
I was out of jail for less than 2 months.
2 months, right.
My mum had me home for less than 2 months.
Right. And so you must have been absolutely gutted, right, at that point?
I was heartbroken, honestly. Like, obviously a lot of my friends have committed suicide. A lot of them have died on overdoses, and I was literally at that point where I just felt like giving up. I knew it. I just thought, fuck this. Sorry about my language. I thought, I can't do this. I can't do another 3 years. Plus more. But I knew I had to. I had no choice. I've got a mission. It's bigger than myself. I can't leave my people behind like this. I just knew it. I knew that it was temporary. I knew the sun will come again. I knew that if I stop now, I'm just causing a permanent solution for a temporary problem. And I just had this blind faith and just that calling again where I started going to church. Started actually going to church. Started getting involved with the fellowship.
This was in jail?
This is in jail when I got recalled, when I'm giving up on myself.
The fellowship of AA?
Yeah, I was literally ready to call it. And it was like, I just kept getting these overwhelming, like, just call-ins for it, just to go to church, get your faith, find your faith. You need to come here first before anything happens. And I was with Yvonne, who was the chaplaincy, and I just cried. Every time I went to church, I just cried, man. I'd see it and I'd sit there and I'd just get an overwhelming amount of emotion in me and just strength, I guess. Do you know what I mean? Strength within myself. And then I started really thinking I got to make something different happen now. I've got to invest in my change. I've got to invest in myself. So I just started going to the fellowship, to NA, to AA, to CA, challenging my addiction. I started reading books, psychology books.
So this is a whole different journey to the first time around. This time you were actually wanting
360
to
spin.
change. Yeah.
360. I was a different being.
And do you think you were driven by the fear of what would happen to you if you didn't do these things at this point?
Well, I was there. I was getting there. And then my nan died. And it was always just I had the fear of failure. Before my nan died, I was always scared of being a failure. I just wanted to be a success. And that's what was kind of driving me. But the minute my nan left and turned into an angel, that's when I knew that failure just ain't an option. And the fear of failure keeps me going. It's the fear of just knowing that I've got angels now up there that are pulling me forward. Do you know what I mean? My nan took her last breaths on this planet, not knowing that I was going to be okay. And I swore to myself that my mother, my other nan, my granddad, no other person that I love or care about will ever leave this body worried about me. And that was the drive then, where when my nan, with her spiritual side, she just, do you know what I mean? We've all got angels, man. I believe in them so much. And the minute my nan become an angel, things just got easier. It's like she banged a lot of doors down for me. It's like she just always wrapped me up in her wings and kept me safe.
Have you felt like actual connection with
100%,
with your nan?
100,000,000%. My nan proved it. My nan always told me that there was such thing as this, such thing as that. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to say what I believe in and what I don't believe in, because I believe in something completely different to a lot of people I meet. But there's definitely something bigger than ourselves. And
so you feel a sense of her being there, supporting you, guiding you from above.
She proved it well. She outright proved it to me on a funeral. I had a mobile phone in Portland jail. I'm sorry, Portland prison, because obviously you're not allowed mobile phones. But I had a mobile phone so I could contact my family and stuff. And on the night of my nan's funeral, I rang all my family, everyone's as well as they can be, and I'm trying to put the phone away. And I've got a certain stash for it. It was a carved out bit of wood in the table, and you'd lift up the top of your table and you'd drop the phone into the leg, and then you'd glue that and you pin it down, and officers couldn't get in there, no one could find it, and it was safe. But I couldn't find the wood glue to seal it with, and I was losing my mind, and I ripped the cell apart. And then I thought, you know what, I'm not finding it. So I put the whole cell back together, and my whole cell was spanking. Everything had its place to be. And I laid in bed, and then a net bag was on the middle of my floor in my cell, this net bag, what you put your dirty wash in it. And I know I just put that under my bed. I tidied everything up. There was nothing out of place. And I'm laid in my bed, and there's this bag on the floor, and it's got a point in it. And it's obviously covering. I'm thinking, what is that? And I got out of bed and I lifted up the net bag, and the wood glue was under the net bag. And that was it. That moment there just pillared my faith into me, like, Nan's still here. and she's still messing with me. Do you know what I mean? She's still messing with me, man. I'm not meant to have this phone. If there was any way my nan could have communicated with me that night, that was the best way. And she was in a strong being. She knew how much pain I was in. She knew, and she come to see me before she passed. 100%.
Wow. So yeah, that was obviously a really dark moment for you, and Nan going and leaving you, and I think you'd lost other friends by then, right?
Yeah, I lost my best friend.
Around that time.
Yeah, the same year. My best friend who died of who knows, but suspected overdose. And he was a absolute good lad. So loyal, so beautiful souled. But again, just comes from that environment. Do you know what I mean? He grew up in care homes. He lost his mother. So I'm blessed to have what I've got compared to what Tom had, bless his soul. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It still ain't ending. There's people dying every day, Will, but we just don't hear about it.
Yeah. So you were back in prison. You'd lost your mate. You'd lost your nan. This must have been a dark time for you. Would you say we're in the dark wood stage of the journey now?
100%.
And what do you think was the greatest challenge for you at that time that you needed to overcome to move forward on your journey?
Greatest challenge for me to overcome was just believing in myself again. I think I was always so optimistic and upbeat. I was just down. I was a down dog. I felt like everything was wrong and I was trying to make it right, and it's all just come crashing down again. And this time it's not only myself, this is external things, this is people that I love and care about. And the biggest thing for me to overcome was just being able to have that blind faith that they're not gone and I can continue. Do you know what I mean? I can carry on and live their lives now in a proud way.
Yeah.
Biggest thing for me, was just getting my head out my ass again. I was just depressed and just felt sorry for myself, and I just felt alone, and just what's the point? What is the point in it all?
So at that darkest hour, we'll be right in saying that around that time, Key for Life turned up in prison, brought the horses in, because they do equine therapy, don't they? Brought the horses in. That was the first contact you had with them, right?
The saving grace.
And tell us what happened that day.
So it was strange, because like you were just saying, I was just surrendering now to this way of life. I was giving up on it, giving up on myself completely. And just as I was doing that, I was coming back from one of the workshops what I was attending. It might have even been NA, you know, it might have been. And I was coming back from a fellowship meeting or something along them lines, something to build myself. And I got back onto the wing and I was greeted by all these prisoners just gawping through a window like that. And I said, "What are you boys up to?" And they said, "Liam, have you seen all these girls in Airmind?" And I was like, "What?" And they said, "Yeah, look at all these girls." So I'm at the window with them like that. I'm like, "Wow." I said, "Anyone gone say hello then?" I said, nah. I said, "All right, I'll go say hello." And little did I know that, me walking into that office to introduce myself and say hello was the day that would change everything. Everything. The angels, like, it's like my prayers got answered.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, the angels had just literally, angels had appeared in the jail in a human form. And they said, "Liam, we are here to change your life if you want to change it."
Did you believe them?
Nah, no way. Of course I didn't. I don't think no one could change my life. Well, no one can change my life. Only I can change my life, Will.
Yeah.
And at that point, I didn't know if I was capable of changing it, to be completely honest with you.
So did you sort of sign up for a program?
Signed up for the fun, yeah. Because it was like, it seemed fun. They said they're doing football, bringing in the horses. They're doing music, which has always been a passion of mine. And I was like, and they were nice people. They weren't tarnished by prisoners. Yeah. This weren't prison officers that had dealt with the stick what we give them. These were innocent souls that have come in to help. And it was like, I just wanted to be a part of that innocence and just being felt valued and purposeful, and like I did have something that someone wanted to listen to.
So do you immediately sense a real feeling of hope here? Like this could be something.
I had a feeling of I need to do this.
Yeah.
But the real feeling of hope come when I done an emotional resilience exercise with Dave.
Yeah. So Dave's the guy who leads the programs. Yeah.
Dave led the programs with Lee, and they took me back to a situation that I hadn't slept properly about for years. Every time I think about it, I couldn't sleep. And they done one exercise with me, perceptual positions, and they put me as my brother, who I always cried for, the perpetrator, and the third party that didn't have no bias. And I had the conversation from all 3 points, and it totally changed the way I felt about the whole situation. It made me more knowledgeable, and I slept like a baby that night. And I thought there really could be something here, you know. And I started attending every session, threw myself right in, and the transformation had begun. I didn't even know it, and I was in my cell practicing their teachings, practicing their theories, imagining myself doing this, imagining myself putting intent into that, and then really actually reading proper books that actually, do you know what I mean? I felt myself evolving in self-enlightenment. I was like, boom, boom. I was actually really now growing. I wasn't this feeble prisoner just waiting for my day to come. I was this member of society from a prison that couldn't wait to offer the world what I've got to offer now. I felt just this overwhelming sense of hope, prosperity, soulfulness, pride, and I just couldn't wait to get out now under these circumstances.
Fantastic. So tell me a bit about how the horse therapy worked with the equine.
The horses was strange, Will, because obviously I've got horse in my blood. My granddad, alongside being a miner, he
was a horse.
Yeah, he was a horse. He was half horse. But no, he was. Do you know what I mean? He bred horses and dogs. He was a dog breeder, horse breeder, and my father broke in the horses. So my grandfather would breed them, my father would break them in. So growing up, as a toddler, I'd be on horseback with no saddle. Do you know what I mean? But obviously I lost my heritage to them roots when Mum took us to Birmingham. Do you know what I mean? I didn't go on horseback all the way up until that point. I was in prison then. Yeah. So when Eva, the amazing Eva Hamilton, put me on horseback, the first exercise, I was riding the horse around, and she told me to just spread my wings up, spread my arms up and close my eyes. And I'll never forget it. It was almost as if I just flew straight over the prison walls, and I was just free as a bird with the wind going through my hair and through my fingertips. But unfortunately I did have to open my eyes. I was on Portland Young Offenders Institution's rugby pitch with the gym gov looking at me like that. But yeah, the horses, they teach you things on a different level. At first I didn't really understand how intuition they was, but they're like an onion, really. Do you know what I mean? Like, you learn that there's different ways of communicating other than language or violence. Do you know what I mean? There's your body language, your persona, your energy, your aura, and the horses are a big teacher of that, about space. And people need their space. Horses need their space. So they're like a metaphor almost for teachings in life that can serve you in all walks of life. Same as the sport. So the sport for thought with QPR, with Pablo and the team. Like, it's bigger than the sport. It ain't coming there to play football. It's all about the discipline. Like, if I asked you, Will, what do you think is the most important when a football coach is going to scout someone? Mm-hmm. Technique, ability, attitude, or application? What do you think is the top thing they look for? Technique, attitude, application,
or talent, was it?
Technique, attitude, application, or ability?
I'd probably say ability.
You'd probably say ability, yeah? And then what would you say next?
Maybe attitude.
Maybe attitude. Yeah, so I can tell you, attitude's the top one.
Right.
Attitude's what they'll go for before any of the things, because you can teach ability. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? You can teach all the others, but your attitude...
You can't teach ability, though. That's just raw
No, you can. You can teach ability. You can make someone more able to do something. Like if I say to you, what does practice make?
Yeah.
You're going to say,
perfect.
It doesn't though. Practice makes permanent. The more you practice something, the chances are you'll be able to do it better permanently.
Yeah, yeah.
Because perfect don't exist.
Yeah.
So it's the same with teaching ability. You can teach someone to get better, and they may never be perfect. Perfect don't exist, but you can make them more able to be more permanent at it.
Yeah.
And like it's mind blowing, and we're using all these metaphors.
Yeah.
That like, well, Key for Life used all these metaphors on me.
Yeah.
And like, the penny started sinking from all different angles, and it was like.
And the music was like using.
The music was another part of it.
Another way to sort of channel all that sort of aggression and.
So with the music,
into something positive with the music, right?
Like with the music, I'd always done music. Music was always part of my life. Do you know what I mean? I was a raver baby in my mum's tummy. Do you know what I mean? To the dance vibes and that. And my father was a big music fan, and I always grew up around music. And Marshall Mathers, Eminem, like I used to relate so much to him. Like I used to just put on a pair of headphones and drown everything else out, and it'd just be me and Marshall in my room. And for years he kept me going. And then when I actually found myself in prison, I started writing. And I found it just a beautiful technique to disassociate things what had happened to me. It was like I had all this stuff inside of me, just brewing, that I hadn't ever let go. But then when I could write it down, and I could physically throw that in the bin, there was more symbology behind that than I actually ever realised. Yeah. I was letting things go. It was coming from here onto there and out into the quantum where do you know what I mean? They don't exist for me anymore. But I was doing that unknowingly. And then, we got Eva again. Eva's just so amazing.
Eva being the, who listeners know, Eva is the founder and the CEO of the charity.
Yeah, founder of Key for Life, my saving grace. Eva contacted me and said, Liam, we've had Sony on the phone, and Sony Music would like to do an EP with you and the guys, a 7-track album. Do you know Fred again? And I was like, Eva, do I know Fred again? Like, Fred again's my hero. And she was like, yeah, so Fred again's going to produce the track for you. So yeah, we did. We made a 7-track album with Sony. Done really well. It's on GRM Daily now. And Fred again produced it. We shot our video just up the road, actually. Glastonbury tour. Yeah. So we're up on the tour.
It's an amazing video, that one.
Well, that's the spot it all begins for us.
That's a really powerful video, and it's got all you guys sharing your own journeys of what you've been through, and sharing it, not no holds barred, just putting it out there, saying what happened, and then the positive message of coming through it all. And watching that track is unbelievably powerful. Actually, it's amazing.
Yeah, a lot of people.
What's the title of the track in?
It's Let It Go.
Let It Go, yeah.
But obviously there's a couple of issues because there's a few other songs called Let It Go. I'm sure I don't have to name them.
I can think of a couple.
But yeah, Let It Go, Key for Life, and the video for it's actually on GRM Daily. I think it's on like 30,000 views. Yeah. It rightly does deserve a lot more. But you know what? It's 30,000 people that got the message that didn't have the message before.
So just aware of time a little bit.
Sorry, Will.
Not at all. In a nutshell, what was the most important thing that Key for Life did for you?
Introduced me to Yo Valley. I guess. But no, in a nutshell, in all seriousness, they believed in me again. That was the magic piece of the puzzle. Yeah. That belief. Yeah. Someone actually saying, you can do this, Liam. You're valued. Like, when they lit that fire in me again, that I hadn't been lit in a while, I combust in flames, so to speak. The passion was there, and they introduced me to Yo Valley Farms, and that all happened.
So Yo Valley Farms, you got a job there, right?
Yeah, so I met them on a speed date and exercise in Portland prison. Sarah, the amazing Sarah Mead, come in, interviewed me in Portland jail, and the same was said again, Liam. If you're serious about changing your life, I can help you do that. But she did say, along the lines of, any stick, I won't take any stick. If you take the mick, you'll be out. And I really needed that as well. I needed that tough love along with, do you know what I mean, the opportunity, because that was what I'd always understood as well. So so that opportunity come, and I went out with working for Yo Valley outdoors in the conservation team. So I was back on my home soil as such, do you know what I mean? Back out with the green outdoors and able to just be in touch with nature again, do you know what I mean? And just see for as far as the eye could see, and make the world a better place for everyone to live, not only humans, but like animals. I just felt this overwhelming connection to nature and to life, and on a much deeper level than what I'd experienced it before.
Yeah, so amazing opportunity for you after the doldrums of a small cell and that first prison experience through to this big, expansive, open, nurturing nature job and opportunity at Yeo Valley. And of course, while you're working at Yeo Valley, you were working with the charity Key for Life. You graduated from the program. You became a mentor, so you were helping other young men. Yeah, and you still do to turn their own lives around using your own experience and what you've learned with Key for Life. So that was obviously amazing.
Yeah, it's great because Key for Life, they do, when you've been through the program and stuff. Yeah. If you're interested in paying it forward now, you can be put through the peer mentoring qualifications. There's an AQA and peer mentoring level 2 and 3. So then you can come on as a trained key mentor and help the other lads on their journey, which I just think is beautiful because it's just completing the whole circle well. Yeah.
So with that, I guess we're coming into the return stage of the journey, because the return is about bringing something back, an elixir to share with others. And you obviously were sharing through the key mentorship. By now you were sharing through your rap music, sharing your story and sharing important messages that you wanted to share through the music. You're also by now, since you've set up your own business, Exico Flavors, which came out of running the Key for Life food cell. Which do you want to say a little bit about the food cell quickly?
So the food cell is Key for Life's food truck adventure. So it's essentially a sweatbox, which is a prison van, for those that don't know what a sweatbox is. And a prison van is the van what essentially would take you to prison should you go to prison. So they bought a prison van and they renovated it into a professional kitchen to now train young men up, do you know what I mean? Build up their skills, build up their confidence. That was the first one. But then they launched a second one, which is a lot more state of the art. And that was kindly, the money was raised for that by the Winter family. So I'd just like to say thank you to the Winter family, and God rest Jack, because Jack passed away. I believe it was at 20 years old, I think, to liver cancer. Jack Winter. And Jack's helped a lot of lads now, including me, do you know what I mean? Because they got all this money together and put it into this project to help save young men's lives, because Jack weren't no angel himself, do you know what I mean? Jack loved it. He liked to party and he wanted to live life on his own terms, which he did. But then the Winter family raised this money for this burger venture, and now that goes out to festivals, to local communities, with lads that, as horrible as it sounds, would have been taken away from this community at one point. They weren't a benefit to the community, but now they're coming there clean, resolved, and able to offer a product and a service to the community and give back in a positive way, and
learn
off the back of that
valuable skills for their own business development
skills. And that's what off the back of the food cell, I learned everything I could about it, and that's what then led me on to starting my own business in catering with my burger vans and ice cream vans.
That's right. I pretty much met you for the first time with the food
over a burger, over the best burger you've ever eaten as well, just for record.
Definitely up near the top, sure.
The top. Actually, Key for Life can be second top. Exico Flavors.
I have had some exceptional ones there, although I haven't actually had an Exico flavour one.
Oh, you just wait. The best is yet to come.
I'm looking forward to that. Bringing all these things back, sharing with the community through Key for Life, through Exico Flavors, and obviously life is pretty good now, and
unrecognisable.
How do you keep yourself sort of fit and healthy and on track and sane? What do you do to kind of maintain your positive attitude now?
I just remember where I come from. A lot of the time, that grounds me, because we've all got problems. We're all always going to have problems. They're just different qualities to the problems. And I find now, even though I'm clean of drugs and I can spend my time as I want, I've still got all these problems. Do you know what I mean? But they're high quality problems now. Do you know what I mean? They're much better quality. So when I'm dealing with the pressures of today's society and the world we live in, and I just kind of just take a breath, ring up my mum, do you know what I mean? Have a chat with my mum, ring up my nan and granddad, get grounded with them just through hearing their voice. And then I just remember where I've come from and where I am today. And this, or everything what's going on right now, is a moment of time. And I just got to do my best in this moment of time to make the next moment even better. So it's just what I do, bro. I just always try to think positive. If something's negative, I'll reframe it and I'll try and see it as a positive. So say if I'm meant to, little drama, but say if someone's arranged for a meeting with me at 4:00 and then they cancel their meeting, rather than being, oh no, well now I get to spend an extra couple more hours with my beautiful girlfriend. Do you know what I mean? So it's just always reframing things, no matter whether they're the biggest problem in the world to the littlest problem, finding that little bit of silver lining and focusing on that, and then taking that piece into the future rather than all the bad.
Yeah, great.
Because if I took all the bad with me into the future, I don't think I'd be here now. Like you said, it's a perfect excuse to just never find your way home, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I'm remembering, of course, that we did say that you'd do a little rap, didn't we? Tell you what, I got. Well, we'll talk about that afterwards. If that's okay.
I mean, this is all for free, guys. I love Will a lot.
Tell you what, let's have one last question, then we'll do the rap.
Yeah. I'll do it a cappella.
The last question will be, what advice would you have for anyone out there, whether involved with crime or not, but who are stuck in a rut, doing things, maybe stuck in bad behaviour patterns and habits that they don't know how to get out of, they're stuck in them and they don't know how to change? What would your advice be for starting points for turning things around and making a change?
Well, it's like, how do I say it without sounding too philosophical? Do
you need to?
Yeah, literally. It's just,
okay.
Well, first thing I'd say is all them people that are there, they've made a mistake to be feeling this way. And my advice to that is somebody that never made a mistake. They actually never made anything at all. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When we make these mistakes, when we're in these moments of despair, that's where we learn the most. That's where the most growth lies.
Absolutely.
So try and just be present with it and just try and grow from it. And remember that it's temporary. Fingers crossed it's temporary. And pain's temporary, pride's forever. So the pain, what you're feeling now, will subside. And what you can take from this moment now you could be proud for the rest of your life. So just don't give up on yourself just yet, and just keep marching on, keep going forward, because there's always better days ahead for as long as you believe that and you're willing to march forward to them.
Brilliant. Thank you, mate.
Thank you, Will.
Let's have that rap.
Jump on the back scene, jump on the minute, I'm only joking. Drum and bass bars. So I won't rap it, Will, because usually my music is very, very, very fast, quick of the tongue.
Yeah.
And I don't want people to have to listen to it 8 times to understand what I said. So I'll deliver it in almost a spoken word poetry form.
Okay, great.
Guilty verdict. My brother got birded. Now he's trapped in the dock with the demons circling. Them angels purging. My life's full of burdens. My brother took his life and it's silent. How ironic when nobody heard him. I got loud, pick up the mic, got working. I'll never be perfect. My bleeding heart's still hurting. But the truth be told, they already know I love it when demons circling. Bro, bang it, I hope they heard it. It works if you work it, my brother, work it 'cause you're worth it. Remember the first place you ever heard it. You're the real stuff, there's no such thing as perfect. You're pretty close, my brother, though, you're always learning. Talking about what you could be, not could have been, that got that fire burning. Now we'll get their stomachs turning. I bet they'll turn it up when they heard it.
Awesome.
Do you want more?
Go on then.
Yeah?
Couple more bars.
The real ones with that mad love. I'll get the man them on stage paid someday to get the fan them to throw their hands up. I'll make the hairs on your back will stand up. Fall down someday, nothing but mad love. Never thought blue lights would ever catch us. One day, prison's a state of mind, and I still see guys on the other side, and they're living life less banged up. 6 years banged up, some said bad luck. Now I put on the box and see my face flash up. It's all looking mad, bruh, no pressure. back in the day, it was mad tough. Nowadays, I arrive at the place and get the people jumping from the front to the back, bruv. Pulling up in a black bus, 4 of my G's in a black tux, and the cameras flash, bruv. Will gets gassed up. Why? Because we come from the madness and the badness and the sadness. I remember the times when we had less. Now we sit back with a 2-pack and a big pack of dreams, feeling like Biggie Smalls while we manifest.
Amazing.
Ditto
you.
To you, Will. Ditto to you, my brother. Thank you for having me, Will.
Thank you
I've
so
loved
much.
it. I'm sorry if I pressed the time with my rambling.
Don't you worry at all.
waffling.
It's been really awesome to hear your story. I mean, I've heard it, snippets of your story in different shorter formats a few times, and this time it's great to go deep into it in more
Couple
detail.
exclusives there, Will.
And, yeah, thank you so much. And
thank you, my brother. Thank you, man.
thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
To follow up, how do people find out more about Key for Life? Where they want to support the charity, they want to know about the programs. What's the website?
So the website, if you're interested in becoming a mentor for the charity, that just looks like being a mentor, being a point of contact for a young man. If you're somebody that's got job opportunities, that you feel like you haven't got employment roles, but just opportunities at the business with someone, you could offer someone a 3-day work taster. We're looking for them. If there's any way, shape or form that you feel like you can help and it's something that you would like to do, we would love to hear from you. So the contact on that would be www.keyforlife.org.uk.
Excellent.
Is
and
that
then
right, Will?
That's perfect. And then Execo Flavors, your company, your
and
business.
then my company is available on social medias, and that's Execo Flavors, Fine Catering. Execo spelled EXECO, and it represents exclusive and eco-friendly, because all our produce is exclusive to Somerset and eco-friendly.
And that's on Facebook.
That's on Facebook and Instagram, yeah. My rap name, Mezza.
MEZZA.
MEZZA, yeah. On YouTube, I've got three songs out on YouTube at the moment, but under Key for Life's label, which is obviously Key for Life. We've got another 7 songs there, and I've got another 10 tunes pending for release within the next, by Christmas, we'll say.
Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop. Watch this space. We're coming up.
Great. Thank you, Liam.
Thank you, Will. God bless you, brother.
Yeah, you too.
Pleasure, Will.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Follow Your Blisters, produced in association with Conscious Frontiers. I'd like to say a big, heartfelt thank you to Isaac Nichols for editing this podcast series, to Michael Tyak for the music, and to our wonderful partners, which include the trailblazing New Consciousness magazines, Resurgence and Ecologist, and Kindred Spirit, the UK's Frontier Restorative Festival, Medicine Festival, and here in Glastonbury, the vibrant Redbrick Community Enterprise Hub, and also GFM Radio, who've kindly lent us their recording studios. Finally, if you have any friends or family who you think would enjoy and benefit from this podcast, please do spread the word and send positive ripples out into the world. Thanks a million.